This week on the podcast, we're going to talk about a Social Security shakeup that's brewing out there, how raising the retirement age is being talked about finally, and what it might mean if it actually goes through. Now, I want to stress that this is not policy yet. They are just now looking into it, so we'll get into that. But Sean, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Just another day in paradise.
Yeah. We were just talking a little bit about the time we're taping this, talking a little bit about the World Series. A little lopsided to start.
I could not care less about either team, but I did want a competitive World Series, and after Game 1, I thought, oh man, this is going to be a really good World Series. The Dodgers, Freddie Freeman hit a walk-off home run, and the last couple of games have been really disappointing.
Yeah.
So.
Especially
the last
a Yankees
team,
fan, for sure. Yeah.
Well, and it's actually pretty fun to be a Red Sox fan and watch them get just hammered.
True.
But the last team to win after going down 3-0 was actually my beloved Red Sox against the Yankees in 2004.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, hopefully they don't get anything about mojo then. You don't want to give up any of your mojo. So
no, none of that mojo. And I'd actually like for it to go 6 games just so I can get watch some more baseball.
Sure.
Because I'm not watching the NBA. I'm not watching a ton of NFL right now. So
you got to come over to hockey, man. Come over to the hockey side. You got a team in the area now. You got to come over to the hockey side. I love me some hockey, man. There's nothing like live hockey. So
and they're doing pretty good. We've actually talked about going and watching the Utah Hockey Club.
Yeah, they're gonna figure out the name, but I think they should have went with the Yetis. Like the Yetis would be hilarious. You know?
Oh man, how awesome would that have been?
Yeah, the Utah Yetis.
What a great mascot they could have had.
Exactly. And the little things they could sell at the little, because we've got Stormy the pig. He's an ice pig. Now we're in North Carolina, barbecue. It's a little ham-handed, ham-fisted. More jokes, pun intended there. But the little dolls, like the little stuff sells like crazy. There's Stormy merchandise everywhere. They could totally do that with a Yeti. That'd be hilarious.
Well, just think of the play on. Kind of the play on the Bigfoot, the Yeti, that you can't find the Yeti, and they place little Yetis all around town.
Yeah.
And you get free tickets if you find them.
And the little hats, because it's cold in the hockey arena, so they could sell the little ear things. You could pull that little toboggans or whatever, and it looked like a little Yeti eyeball. Yeah.
Oh man, it's snowing today up in the mountains. So,
all right,
there you have it. I don't know why Utah Hockey Club didn't hire us.
Utah Hockey Club, Sean and I, we want cut in on this. Help us out here. Come on. Yeah. So we want some royalties for this stuff. It's good stuff. But let's talk about a serious situation here in your arena. But in all seriousness, go watch hockey, everybody, because it's awesome. All right, so in your kind of ballpark, if you will, let's talk a little bit about this proposal. So Congressman Brendan Boyle has asked the Congressional Budget Office to provide information for right now about the effects of raising full retirement age from 67, which currently is, to 69. And look, something's going to have to happen. I was talking with former U.S. Comptroller David Walker about a month or so ago. It's like, hey, can we tax our way out of this, financial debt and this Social Security hole? And he's like, no, that's just one piece of it, right? There's also going to have to be some other things. Fiscal responsibility is going to have to come into play, and something that the government's not very good at. And the same thing with Social Security, right? Like, can one thing, and we'll talk about that on this a little bit, can one thing like just raising the age fix the program? Right. So let's get into a little bit and talk about some of the key takeaways and some of the conversation piece. What'd you think about it?
It makes, honestly, raising Social Security age actually makes perfect sense to me.
And it has to happen at some point.
Well, and we're going to, this is a topic that is probably going to get good and bad comments, likes, results, whatever it may be. But this isn't a political statement. So when Social Security was originally created, full retirement age was 65.
Yeah. And you were dead at 63.
Yeah. So it's not like they had this issue of funding longevity in retirement. It was life expectancy was about when you could start to pull out those retirement benefits. Well, what has happened as time has gone on is that we're living longer. We're healthier.
Yep.
We're actually in this mindset where we want to retire earlier. So now you've got this, call this python eating a pig of perfect storm, where it's like, hey, we're living longer, we want to retire earlier, and so now we're using more and more benefits. And oh, by the way, there are less workers paying into
Yeah.
Social Security.
Yeah. Are you sacrificing my stormy pig, by the way, with that comment?
Sorry, the pig got eaten by the Yeti.
The Yeti. but you're dead on, right? So, you've got almost like a triple, it's a triple threat, right?
Right.
Situation going on there. And so some of the interesting data, so basically, and I was kind of shocked by this, Sean, based on our age. You're a couple of years younger than me, but I really thought that when we saw, and again, this is just a proposal, and this is just a preliminary conversation. We want to stress that to the listeners and the viewers, but I really thought we'd see something like anyone born after 1980, is going to have these changes. This is actually interesting. So workers be born in 1965 or later would see their full retirement age increase incrementally like it does now, right? So like if you're 66 and 6 months or 66 and 8 months or something like that. With workers born after 72 going to the 69. So I'm 71. I'd be in that incremental. And my wife is born in 75, so she'd be, 69. I really was surprised that it was that early. So interesting, that was part of it. That's one of the takeaways I had too.
Well, so if you look, it's 1972, you're 52 years old, right?
Right.
So here's kind of what I think is happening is that they want to give people at a minimum 10 years to come up with some planning.
Okay,
and so 10 years to get your financial plan in order to determine, am I going to be able to retire early, which is still 62? Now, remember, if they incrementally increase full retirement age to 69, it doesn't look like to me they're getting rid of that age 62. They're just reducing benefit by more.
So far, right? I think as they dig into this further, I think we're going to have to see them also push that back to 64 maybe for early or 65. They also don't talk about 70. They leave 70 alone too.
Right. So there's the reality of it is we're living longer and taking Social Security, full retirement age. I'm born in 1980, so I'm in that full retirement age of 69. I'm probably okay with that, right? Because my life expectancy is well into my 90s. So with something like pulling Social Security benefits and full retirement age being 69, it is what it is. But the way that I look at Social Security, anyways, from a planning perspective. It doesn't matter if your full retirement age is 67, 68, 69. The fundamentals aren't going to change.
Right.
So the fundamentals of how you plan for Social Security are still going to be, how can we best leverage this benefit, this social benefit, whatever you want to
call it. Yeah.
Whatever I put my money into this account, it's my money. I understand all sides to it.
Right.
But the reality is that there will be a mathematical point in time when it makes the most sense to take Social Security. So planning's not really going to change a whole lot other than, potentially at 62, you're, instead of getting 33% reduction, you're going to get a 40% reduction. And with that being said, now we have to plan it a little bit differently.
Yeah. And let's clarify for folks a little bit on that. So part of that proposal, that's what it would be, right? If they left the 62 alone and you couldn't, now get to full retirement age, currently people who are eligible at 67, we'll just go with the basic numbers, and they take it at 62, you're taking about a 30% haircut. If they were to move this to 69, and still left the 62 as an option for early, now you're taking a 40% haircut, and that changes planning a little bit. And the sound of that scares the bejeebus out of some people. They go, whoa, 40%? I don't know if I can handle that. So I think the idea, maybe it is to leave that number at 62 to scare folks so they will work till full retirement age, right? Because then that puts less strain on the system as well. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you work it a little bit longer. Maybe you were going to retire at 62 with a 33% reduction, but I don't know the math exactly, but maybe working to 64 gives you a 33% reduction. So you work 2 extra years. They're usually your highest income earning years when you get closer to retirement. So now you're fully funding Social Security. Your benefit will increase a little bit just based on,
Right.
extra,
The extra dollars.
putting
Yeah.
more money into it. And so it's not necessarily a bad thing. And here's the thing, if I've saved enough money and if I'm planning properly and I'm doing the things that I need to, and I'm looking at Social Security as a leveraging point, a leveraging account to keep more of my money in my pocket and use the government's money to create some income, 67, 69, it's not really going to matter to me. I'm still going to do plan and leverage. Now, I may work an extra year, so that's or two. And that may be the change that I have to come to grips with as a retiree. But a lot of this can be put to bed if you properly plan.
And early enough to get it done. Yeah, it may not make a difference, right? Well, let's talk a little bit more about some of the data in here just to share with folks. So
Sure.
the funding or the health of the whole thing, right? So this is obviously the part of it because, to your point, once upon a time it was something crazy like 35 people paying in for every one pulling out. I think right now it's 2.5 to every one. I think they say another 10 years it's going to be 2 to 1, right? So for every one person pulling out, only 2 people are paying in. It's not sustainable. We've all heard the conversation pieces, Sean, about it going to be broke by 2033, 2034, just kind of depends. This proposal alone, according to this article and this information, which we'll post links in the show notes, by the way, folks, the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, says that it's only going to improve about 24% of the actual deficit, about a 75-year actuarial deficit by 24%. Now, that sounds complicated. Does that mean it's going to boost it by 24% over 75 years, or just kind of it's only going to increase the likelihood of it being successful by 24%, right? It's a little vague.
Yeah, I mean the way that I'm reading it is that this deficit, it would only reduce the program's 75% or 75-year actuarial deficit by 24%. So the way that I understand that is that rather than, people are saying, well, you're going to have a 25% reduction of your benefit by 2034.
Right, whatever it is, yeah.
The way that I'm reading this is that 25%, now I may be wrong, I've got to read the report a little bit deeper, but the way that I'm reading that is that instead of it being a 25% reduction, now it's maybe a 19% reduction. I'm saying that it's only going to help by 25% of what they're.
It's going to, yeah. It's so to the point earlier of, okay, just doing this alone does not fix the program. Right.
Yeah,
it fixes about 25% of the program, basically.
Exactly.
So other things are going to have to be done. Is that taxation? Does Medicare go up? Right now at the time we're taping this, Sean, we are about 5 days away from election, doom and gloom. So we'll actually probably be dropping this after the election. So we don't even know who actually is going to be the president. But one candidate wants to raise Medicare taxes. All right. Tax rates, the income tax rates that you're paying in. The other one I don't think has talked about it at all. But is that a piece? Does that have to happen? Maybe it's that. Maybe it's pushing the age back. Maybe it's eliminating the 62 early and pushing that back. I mean, there's a lot of variables. Unfortunately, this is the third rail of politics. If you think about Social Security in this current campaign that everyone's been doing, the only thing they've really talked about was basically one person said, I'm going to raise Medicare tax, and one person said, I'm going to stop taxation on Social Security, the 85 up to 85% of your benefit kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That's it. They don't really talk about how to fix the program. No one wants to deal with this thing. I'm just shocked that this congressman even put forth a proposal. Because it's like, wow, thank you for at least doing this early, because they typically wait till the last minute.
Right. And historically what happens is that Congress will fix a problem enough to kick the can down the road
to somebody else,
to the next generation.
Yeah.
And that's probably what will happen. There are a lot of things that can be done. Raising the Social Security, FICA earnings limits has been talked about.
Means testing.
Increasing Social Security full retirement age is one thing that's been proposed. Increasing early retirement age should also be talked about at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
Like we were just saying. Yeah.
Yeah. If my full retirement age was 69, doesn't really make any sense for me to be able to collect Social Security at 62.
Yeah.
All that does is stress the problem out even further.
Just shift the whole thing 2 years, which probably is what they're going to come back. Again, this is just early kind of bouncing numbers around to see what happens. But obviously, it's a super hot button issue. So let me just kind of, I guess, leave us with this. Because again, this is all like in the wind stuff, folks. There's no hard data other than the information we just gave you.
Right.
What should someone take away if they are my age, if they're 52 plus, 52 plus, right? What should we take away from the fact that something could be happening? To me, it's get with someone and start seeing how they can help or how you can shore up your own defense before you ever have to even deal with what they throw at us.
Yeah, I mean, if Social Security is the only tool in the toolbox for you,
you're not going to have the retirement you want, for sure.
You got to roll with the punches, and the government's going to kind of
and they're going to punch you. You got to roll with the punches, and they're going to hit you hard. So
yeah, they're going to hit you hard. They're going to tell you when you can and can't retire.
Yeah,
you don't really have you don't really have much say here. However, if you're one of those that are 10, 15 years away from retirement, stress test your plan to determine and get with your advisor and say, hey, can we stress test my plan to determine if these changes in Social Security happen, how my plan will be affected if I choose to retire at the same date that I was planning on. So if I were to retire at age 60, for example, knowing that I'm not going to get Social Security till 62 or 63 or 64, whatever the mathematical date says,
right?
Will the stress test of my plan allow for me to still retire at that time?
Mm-hmm.
If it won't, I'd rather know now, because then you can adjust and you can plan, okay, what does it look like at 62? Yeah, it may be a little upsetting, but if Congress doesn't pass this bill, your plan's fine. If they do pass this bill, at least you know what steps I need to take in order to get there.
Yeah, exactly. It all comes back. And you think about the writing on the wall with the Secure Act, some of the changes that were in that. And of course, if you don't know much about that, we'll be covering that in upcoming episodes. Secure Act 2.0, which, those different various. So the writing is on the wall that, hey, look, everyone's looking at it. There's more people and they're living longer. Stuff's got to change. France changed their pensioner program. It's the equivalent of what we have just a couple years ago. They moved it back 2 years from 62 to 64. And there was rioting in the streets for 45 days. Right. And it was by people that were 40 years away from retirement. So they know it's going to annoy people, but it's something that has to be looked at because there's just more people and we're living longer. So you don't want to be in the camp of relying solely on the government to dictate your future. Then get a plan, get a strategy, get involved, get active with building something so that you don't have to go down that avenue. So that's the podcast this week. Hopefully that sufficiently didn't scare you, but at least maybe lit a fire under your tush to talk with somebody, right? To kind of get some plans in action so you don't have to be in this situation regardless of what they choose to do. So if you need some help, as always, check the show notes for how to link up with Sean. We've got links in there for how to get a hold of Sean's book, how to get some time on the calendar, all sorts of good stuff in there, right, that they can check out. So very easy to do. Just check the show note descriptions. Of course, we've had some stuff popping up on the screen along the way as well. And don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple or Spotify or YouTube. Hit the subscribe button and all that good jazz. Anything else, Sean, before we go?
Yeah, don't light me up in the comments on this. I'm just the messenger. If you want to have a discussion on how Social Security helps, just schedule it. Let's have a real discussion, but don't light me up in the comments.
There you go. And that's all in the information below. So just check the show note details for that. And we'll see you next time here on Retirement Elevated with Sean Lee.
This video has been prepared for educational and marketing purposes only. The information in this video is general in nature, does not constitute personalized investment advice, and does not provide a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. All investments involve risk, and different types of investments involve varying degrees of risk. There can be no assurance that any specific investment strategy will be profitable or suitable to you. Additionally, although information presented in this video is believed to be factual and up to date, we do not guarantee its accuracy. You should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation and should consult a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies mentioned in this video. Investment advisory services are offered through Elevated Capital Advisors LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor affiliated with Elevated Retirement Group LLC. Registration as an investment advisor does not constitute an endorsement of Elevated Capital Advisors LLC by securities regulators, nor does it indicate that the firm has attained a particular level of skill or ability. Insurance advice and products may be offered by a third-party insurance producer, which may be affiliated with Elevated Retirement Group LLC and Elevated Capital Advisors LLC. Mark Killian and Third Wheel Media LLC receive compensation for their assistance in preparing and hosting this video.